Hello everyone, it's Tuesday again. It's Harp Tuesday, November 8th, 2011. And in this episode of Harp Tuesday, I'm going to talk about sliding with the thumb and with a fourth finger. But before I do, I wanted to let you know that I'm going to try offering some Skype lessons, which I don't know how that's going to be. It's be very strange not to be in the same room as somebody. And of course, you're certainly at the mercy of internet connections and also the hardware, the webcam or whatever that you're using. But I thought I would try it. It might be kind of fun. And I'm looking for 4 or 5 people to just do a lesson and see how that works. So I'm just going to charge $10 just to try to get an idea of whether this is something that I'd like to do. So if you're interested, let me know. I don't have a webpage up yet, but I will have soon. And yeah, it might be kind of fun. So for this episode, I'm going to talk about sliding. And generally, that will be with the thumb. You'll see it marked in music as it looks like a tie. Let's see. For example, here. Not sure if that's showing up. There's all these, well, not going up, but going down, all these markings that look like a tie. But instead of course, there are different notes, right? You're going, or whatever. And you're sliding. And oftentimes, to make it really precise, you'd put 1 and another 1. So these 2 notes would be 1 and 1 with this little slur marking to indicate that it's being slid. You're not coming off. And what that means, of course, is that you're just sliding. And let's maybe try zooming in a little bit. So, and I think I talked about this maybe in one of the 4A episodes or something, but the basic motion is that the thumb itself is staying pretty firm. It's pretty stable. It's not moving around much. And it's this part of the hand that's driving it, that's creating the motion. So that it's where normally we might be using this knuckle a little bit more. Here it's a very big motion. And let's maybe zoom in just a tiny bit more here. So that is essentially the basic motion of a slide. And it's, of course, similar to what you'd be doing with a gliss, where the thumb's not moving around much. It's the hand and the arm that's creating the motion and creating the impetus to make that string start vibrating. So generally, it might be a case of maybe you have 5 notes going down. And of course, instead of having to cross over, you can go so that you're sliding and then playing. So it's more efficient because, of course, crossing over is just a little bit awkward, whereas here you have everything solid and placed and you can play that really quickly. Now, for me, I'm not a huge fan of the sound of the slide. It's pretty close to normal playing. But if at all possible, I do tend to avoid slides a little bit. It's just, I feel it's harder to get a really great tone out of a slid note, as opposed to. But as you can hear, there's very little difference, and of course it's going to come down to some preference as well. And for me, I find that fairly easy, so that as long as it's not horribly fast, I'm happy to do that. Of course, sometimes when it's really fast, I will definitely slide. And like the Rainier legend that I showed you with the slide markings, it's very short. Obviously not the right notes there, but again, something like that. It's very awkward to try to go. You have this big wide spacing. So a slide makes a lot of sense. Now let's talk about another thing that you will occasionally encounter, which is sliding while playing with other fingers. So this will happen typically with thirds. Maybe you've got... It's kind of awkward to... you can come off the string, a little wrist movement, bounce up and down. But it's something that's a whole lot easier to do on the piano. So you can do that by sliding the thumb and playing 2. And then sliding the thumb and playing 3. And then playing both the thumb and 4 normally. So you're sliding, and then coming off. Or maybe you continue, cross 2 over. It's kind of peculiar. So you're still sliding, coming off. Which is a lot easier on the arm than trying to just come off on each of those and do them individually. It's something that takes some practice. I actually, just before I started filming this, I was experimenting with those with the left hand because I can't think of a piece that actually calls for the left hand to do those thirds being slid. And I realized, well, I can slide the thumb. Trying to do these felt pretty awkward. So that gave me an idea of if you haven't done that before, how awkward it's going to feel. And what you want to do is practice, you can practice playing 2 and sliding 1, or sliding 1 and playing 2. So with the left hand here. And then trying to play them together. Getting a feeling of how they're both being played, and then again. Oh. And you can see my left hand just finds that a little awkward. But the thing is, with some practice, you'll be able to handle that, and it should be fine. And the final thing that I want to talk about in terms of sliding the thumb is that sometimes you will see that you might have a fairly wide span, maybe 6 notes. And you can actually slide multiple notes with the thumb. I'm thinking of some of the Godefroy stuff where it's really high up here. Where, especially, my harp has some room up here. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's kind of constricted, right? So that to try to finger something by crossing over, you have so little room up here. So this is a great spot where you can slide multiple notes. So again, we might have, say, maybe two slides. And the trick with that is doing it fast is to just be aware of how that transition feels of slide, 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 play. Because if you slide that last one, then 2's not going to be able to play. So So the thing to practice is just those slides, just the thumb, and then playing, and that transition between, to make that as smooth as possible. So it's something to play around with. The other type of slide that you might encounter would be with the fourth finger. So again, when you're faced with a group of 5, say, that you might finger, you could slide 4. And again, like the thumb, the finger, instead of bending at this first joint, is just staying fairly firm and straight and being pulled towards you. Let me try zooming in here again. So again, quite similar to the thumb in that the finger stays firm, and it's kind of a broad motion of both the finger and a little bit of the bottom part of the hand, just pulling it off the string and then being ready to play. So again, that's something useful, and will also depend on your own preference of sound and how easy or annoying you find it to cross under. So it's definitely a good trick to have in the bag for some situations. And again, it might also, let's say that you wanted to play something like that. It's really hard to find a great fingering for that. Whereas sliding might be the best option. So a couple things to play around with. Slides are definitely a useful thing. In particular, that thumb slide is something that you will encounter fairly often, and is definitely something that you want to be able to feel comfortable doing. And hopefully, if you haven't done much slides, then this episode hopefully was helpful. Okay, well, I will see you again in 2 weeks' time. Cheers.